I just didn't know what to do with myself. It seemed like and sort of lost interest. But
are you trying to say that the game wasn't well structured and that you didn't know what to do? Like you didn't I created my character, now what? Or what do you mean?
Also realize like how just like when we're in ARC today and like we get stumped, like we go to YouTube or whatever, that just did not exist. There was a book that came with this motherfucker. And like you'd have to get this book out and like read, a bunch of like
had to read and shit. MOBA, Dota, Doom, Boom, Wave, Esport, Lips. That was the title. That was the title of your outline for this
new Fortnite.
This one.
Did you say new Fortnite?
That's what you put down.
No, you left out the new Fortnite. It's
new Fortnite.
New Fortnite MOBA Dota.
Listeners. This is how Chuck titled the episode. It says EP18 online multiplayer new Fortnite, and then all in capital letters, MOBA, Dota, Doom, Boom, Wave, Esport, Lips. It says Lips at the end.
That's the SEO freaking dream thing right there. A lot of people pay good money for that.
Oh yeah, and we're not paying a dime for it. This is just all organic love right here.
Yeah.
So, new Fortnite, MOBA, Dota, Doom, Boom, Wave, Esport, Lips, coming at you, listeners. And while we're on that note, welcome gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs. We do not discriminate. This is the New Wave Gaming Podcast, episode 18. I'm Ovox.
And I'm ChukTomahawk.
Yeah, and we're very excited to be here with you. Episode 18, man, we're scratching forward. We're creeping and crawling through the dungeon, approaching our 20th.
Yeah, baby.
Is that a milestone? I don't think it is. It feels like one for us, but I don't think in the larger scheme of things.
I feel like 26 is kind of a milestone because that'd be like a year of episodes if you think of it every 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Yep. All right, so yeah, we'll wait until 26 before cheersing on that. But hey, we're getting close to 20. Great to be here with you, man. Happy New Year to you, Chuck T, and Happy New Year to everyone listening. Hope everyone, and you, Chuck, I hope you had a great time and everyone else did as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you as well. 2023 seems strange. Like, here we are, whole new year.
Here we are, yeah. So this was a great topic we're going to be getting into. It's Chuck's idea. So we're going to be getting an education here a little bit on online gaming. And I think it's fair to say that comes with the multiplayer kind of attached to it organically, right? Online multiplayer. So we're going to have a great conversation, maybe get a little educated on the matter, and definitely talk about our own experiences. Wouldn't you say, Chuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate, like, the very first multiplayer was sort of a two-player situation where, we were both in the same room with two controllers, and so everybody got a little taste of that in the video game world, and that's just kind of hard to recreate. Like, you don't always have your buddy over or, the best competition in the world available, but once ways, came along for us to be connected, it what we might call online, it kind of was a game changer at that point. And it's interesting to see the history of that.
Man, it is. So I thought this was going to be a great topic to jump on and break down and just have some fun with, because I definitely have some online gaming experiences way back, and certainly to date, we play Warzone a lot. We play ARC a lot. We play certainly other games. EVE Online, I play a bunch. We play a lot of online gaming. I think most gamers do, it'd be fair to say.
Yeah.
Maybe not most, but I mean, there's got to be a huge segment of like the active gaming community that even if, because even like on PlayStation, not to go down a rabbit hole so soon in the episode, but like on PlayStation, you basically got to be online just to play even single player campaign sometimes, like especially if you're, on the PlayStation Plus, scene.
Yeah.
You've got to be connected there to some extent.
That's interesting because in the very beginning, I kind of shied away from it. To be honest with you, I've always been a bit of an introvert, and like human interaction sometimes, especially as it kind of creeped its way into this world. I was a little hesitant at first, and kind of avoided those interactions. And I can remember in the early days of Xbox. Like even before you could talk to each other, you could leave each other these short messages, and I can remember getting those, like somebody saying you're trash and that, like so yeah, it's interesting how
that's what you remember from that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how like it went from that trash to like now it's like I hardly ever like am not online, other than a little bit of God of War I played recently, going through the campaign. Like I think I'm always online if I'm playing. So yeah, it's interesting to see that evolution. And it'll be fun to get into that today.
Well, giving this a little bit of structure, let's preview kind of what we want to talk about. We're going to jump into a little bit of history of online multiplayer. I'm sure we'll certainly mention the milestone games throughout the development of multiplayer online gaming. I keep saying multiplayer, but it's really online gaming that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's almost...
we might use them interchangeably a little bit, even though they're not necessarily the same thing. Is that fair to say, Chuck? We might be using those terms kind of interchangeably.
Yeah. It's like we don't mean multiplayer just like four guys sitting on a couch. Like we mean multiplayer, like big scale, large scale multiplayer.
Large scale multiplayer, and rather multiplayer of any scale, but where they're being connected via telecommunications.
Yeah.
Right? That's really even more than the large scale characteristic, which certainly emerges, we'll see here. But even if it's just two people, it's really that online connection via telecommunications aspect.
Yeah.
But I think, just to backtrack real quick, you mentioned something in the beginning about I think you said the best competition or the best player being a friend or something to that effect. And I just wanted to mention this because I don't want to forget it. Right at the top, it was on a video that we were checking out for this topic. I think it was from the Gamer channel. I think that's the name of it. I might be wrong, but anyways, the host of that video said that the foundational principle of online gaming is that, quote, there is no greater challenger than another human player, and there is no greater fun than playing with a friend. Right? And when he said that, I was like, man, oh man. By golly. So, ain't that the truth, man?
Yeah.
And I think, not that this counts as an online game. It certainly wasn't. But except I think it is now. It is now. There's the new remastered version of GoldenEye 007. But that was a really great example out of my personal experience because I wasn't around back in the, I think in that video they used Pong as an example of proof of concept that playing with another person, those little paddles, that little ping pong simulation game back from the, when was Pong originally released? Like in the 50s or 60s or something, dude?
Yeah.
Like way back then? Something like that. But that was certainly proof of concept way back when. But for me, my own personal experience playing GoldenEye on a little square, TV that's split into 4 chunks and we're all sitting next to each other playing that game, and we had so much fun. That was just it made it very obvious that you could put all the NPCs you want into a game and make them as real as you want, all the AI in the world you want, but there's nothing better than playing with, someone else. Friend or foe will come to see.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think I wonder exactly why that is. I think the first thought is that the human players are better, but I think it would be very easy for the gamer, or, for the game creator to make the AI unbeatable. And that also isn't fun. So there's something about humans are sort of exploitable. Like I think that's where like trolling is born. Like where you can kind of get people to take risk and things that AI wouldn't do. Just the most logical way to play. So there's
I see what you're saying,
nothing like
yeah.
a human being. That
Yep.
yeah, it makes it super fun. So.
That's because just all of our human characteristics, the nuances and the characteristics that make us what we are, humans, the envy, and this is all in game, of course, envy, jealousy, or
there's a bonding experience going on.
The bonding experience.
Yeah, we're both experiencing something at the same time, and it's a connection because you can tell a lot about a person's personality of how they approach these things. Whether
you're right.
They rush in or they're more clever about it.
How they interact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're touching on some of the more positive aspects, and I guess my brain was automatically going to the competitive aspect of online gaming by because when we're going down a rabbit hole really bad here already, and we're not even into the episode yet. I guess should we? So we're gonna try and touch on the history, how things evolved, and then the latest. You mentioned some things here in the outline check about cult classics. Our favorite multiplayer online experiences, interesting online game stories, longest running servers, things like that. Yeah. We'll try and touch on a little bit of all that as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we see the human, side of all kind of creep into all these things. Like it can be like the longest running ones. I think are really interesting, and yeah, just the things that happen. When you turn people loose without a lot of rules online and see, it's almost like the developers will try to gear things in one direction, and that's not always what happens. It seems like. Yeah, it's fun, but yeah, I so like what have you been playing? Like, have you played any? I guess like I say, it's almost like all the gaming we do online is online these days. Like, what are you playing right now? Like, as far as
it's funny because I've really been playing, and this just kind of goes to what I was mentioning earlier, that even with single player games, you're really online in a lot of ways, especially kind of regardless of what platform you're on. I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring. Finally got that, and we updated, as you know, brother. We updated to the PS5. Woo! Yeah, man. Finally, right? All right. I'm not even gonna get into that, but
well, I mean, I think it's fair. Like first impression, like just to give our viewers first impression of the PS5.
Oh, I'm stoked. There's plenty of impressions online. Yeah. I'm sure that most people listening to this probably already have one, or like, what took you guys so long, whatever. But well, and to be fair, man, you had one like in your closet for 8 months.
That's true. It's so true.
You didn't want to unbox it. I don't even know what's going on there, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah. Now that I see how compatible it is, like that was a bit more of a mistake than I realized, but I have my reasons for sure, and it's been fun to enjoy that with you guys, like kind of at the same time.
Dude, we got to tell the listeners, man. I think we already brought this up in a prior episode. If we did, apologies, but I got to bring it up again because I thought it was so funny. I was like, why in the hell? Like, why didn't you bust that thing out? Like, I asked Chuck, and he's like, well, I just wanted to wait for you guys to get one. And I remember, what?
Well, to be fair,
I'm just waiting for you and Pepe Tortilla to get one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think on the one hand,
Chuck has been suffering for his homies, which I love you for that, man.
I was afraid that like the playing the forest and Ark and things like that just wouldn't work like that. Like I didn't realize that, how well they had integrated that into that. I just assumed I would have to buy those games again. And I was in a limited space sort of situation there and knew I was going to get a new place and, just wanted to kind of open it at the new place in some respects and also avoid those, conflicts of compatibility, and that's just kind of what led to that. But
hey, and I like tying it back into the topic of today, online gaming. That that compatibility that you're referring to when you say like I just didn't realize how compatible it was, like that it wouldn't even phase you, like you're literally just turning, it's like you're just rebooting and going right back into it. It's because it's all online, man.
Very true.
Isn't that nuts?
Very true.
Like listeners, especially young ones, like you got to understand, like if you're past a certain DOB, date of birth, or DOG, date of gaming, or whatever you want to call it, man. Like if you're past a certain threshold, there's a point where it's like, yeah, like where stuff like that, when you reflect on it, like in my case, born in '87, gaming was a lot different back then, and you've seen it evolve, and to think like that now, this all just floats on a cloud, it's mind-boggling. Right, like it's nuts.
Well, and also understand that through if you look at my history, it would be a fair prediction to predict that it wouldn't work compatibly somehow, and so, because that's been the history of the past.
Like, these things have never worked in my life. Right?
I mean,
staying in the box.
They will, it can happen, but it's going to be a hassle, and so yeah, I think if you're younger and like the internet's always existed in your lifetime, like that alone, is like a ton of information to find out solutions,
Yep.
for what's wrong, and also like the conduit for that compatibility, and that is, I think that's also a great impression of the new PS5. It does seem faster, like far as how long we end up waiting, and server screens and
holy crap, it's faster, dude. It's ridiculously faster than PlayStation 4. And that's even on my weak ass 1 megabyte internet down here that I got with Telmex. Yeah, I keep getting messages like, próximamente habrá fibra óptica en su zona. There will soon be fiber optics in your zone. I got that message like half a year ago, dude. Like, I remember calling him going, hey, so when I get that message, like, what does próximamente mean for you guys? What does soon mean for Telmex? Because it's been half a year, man. I need that.
Holy
it's hard.
Shit. Yeah.
I'll throw on a YouTube video and everything crashes. But you just made a point, and listeners, we swear we're gonna get to the opening chapter of the topic of this episode. We're gonna go back in time a little bit, but before that, like what you were just talking about, that preoccupation of compatibility, of like, okay, I got this new thing and it's supposed to put me online to game with people, but gosh, I got to set it up with my huge PC, because this is back in the day. Equipment was different back then. This is something that I used to experience a lot when I was very, very young, and Age of Empires was like popping, man. It was one of those online games where you could connect with someone else in the world and battle them on Age of Empires. Which it's one of those. I think they're called real-time strategy.
Yeah.
Up down. You look down on them. Yeah. Kind of like StarCraft in a way, but based on more like real history, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, I remember struggling so hard to get online to play with someone, because you had to do the dial up, and it was like it sounded, I think there's a point there where it sounded like a cop car was coming up the driveway, almost like coming out of the computer, like, Jesus, yeah, what's up with all this sound? And dude, like the machine would make that sound. It was like coming for the güero. But anyways, so when you said that part about compatibility, man, I just had a nostalgic flashback of how I used to struggle to actually get online to play against someone, just figuring that out, versus today, how easy it is. In fact, you can go back to PlayStation 2, which was released in 2000, and it was the first, at least for Sony, it was their first platform that had an online integration type of thing.
Xbox Live.
And the Xbox came 1 year later, correct? Yep. And they had their own thing. But so those were kind of like the first consoles to have integrated online going. And that was a huge advantage. Like it was so much different. You turn on the console, plug it in, go online.
Oh,
great.
Dude.
You know, but before that, gosh darn, man, I used to struggle so hard. I hated it. I like...
Dude, I remember when the dial-up went from 28K to 56K, and it was like the commercials for the 56K was like, you know, you were basically going from like, you know, a 22 rifle to a Gatling gun or something. Got the new 56K modem and like, whoa, and yeah.
And just for anyone that is unfamiliar, like I said, anyone that grew up in the internet age, what's the K? What is the 56K versus the prior iterations? Is that
kilobytes?
You're referring to the speed?
Yeah. Which are, what is 1,000 kilobytes makes 1 megabyte, which it takes 1,000 megabytes to make 1 gigabyte, which is what, you know, our...
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, if you
okay,
throw
so
the
you were referring
gigabyte,
to
this system...
56K. Okay, I understand now. Gotcha.
And
gotcha.
I can tell you for sure I didn't understand at that time, but I knew I wanted it. You know, yeah.
That's got to be like at least 20 more than the last.
Yeah, that's like 700% more K.
That's like, I mean, it might as well be a capital K.
No shit.
That's about how much we knew about online stuff back. It was so new, man.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you it's twice as good as 28K. Like, it seems like that's why they went with 56.
That's times 2.
That's clean math right there.
Not times 1.5. Clean math. Oh, God. Oh, this is too much.
I can do that in my head. Yeah. No, that shit worked too, man. I mean, that to me is one of my favorite parts of like looking into this is like, I don't know that I understood when that moment was exactly, and you know, when it really became a thing, because, you know, I think like if you just really break multiplayer down, it probably first happened in a room where 2 people were playing Pong against each other, right in the same room, you know, controlling the same computer, and you know, and if we say like through media, like we almost have to say electronic media, because I think there's examples of people playing cards over newspapers and you know, things like that. Like there's a way that you know, you can kind of, you know, communicate with a pen pal, I think through the mail or something, and play chess and that kind of thing. And you know, again, like that essence of a human being is kind of still there, and I think why people probably sought those things out. But once you could actually do this over a net, like somehow, and I think in the very beginning, there's even a period where it's like local area networks, like where, you know, maybe we all get in the same room with our computers, you know, which is interesting.
This might be the perfect opportunity to really open up this episode, beginning at the beginning, the 1970s. Chuck, what do you got for us? How can you educate us on the very beginning of online multiplayer?
Like a lot of the 70s stuff, it seems like it was more like in the same room kind of thing. Like it wasn't until, you know, you hear people mention the 50s even a little bit, and you know, there being some sort of internal network, but in the 70s you start hearing something. Did you run across something where they talk about a mud?
Why are you grinning?
A multi-user dungeon. Is
this a continuation of Mr. C's class?
No,
just kidding.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
not.
I did, man. Mud.
What is?
And you got to give credit to these developers. You can clearly tell that they weren't getting any marketing counsel or publisher support, you know, on name choosing.
Dude,
yeah, the MUDs, and it seems like they appeared, according to our research, in the 1970s, and MUD stands for multi-user dungeon. And just for the record, listeners, we did pull a lot of our research and info from, you know, good old Wiki and other sites, a lot of articles and YouTube videos. But yeah, we've got these MUDs, multi-user dungeons, and it seems like they were, well, as they describe, packet-based computer networking internal networks. And that's kind of like what you were just referring to, Chuck. At least that's how I understand it. They'd kind of have like, let's just say there's some sort of a research building, or there's a computer science department in a university. And they're, kind of at the tip of the spear with the advancement of telecommunication between computers in different locations. We're just hypothesizing here. I don't know if that's a word. If it isn't, I'm making it up. And so you got this place, there's a bunch of students there, there's a director, I suppose, and they've kind of created this network with amongst their own internal computers, meaning that network that they've created doesn't leave that room or that building or department, whatever the case may be. But, they've successfully created a connection, and within that network, they're able to create these MUDs, multi-user dungeons, where they can each on their own respective computer, perhaps, even if it's maybe across the building or maybe stuff like that. Anyways, long story short, it was a network created in that fashion, and they could pass these packets of information, which were basically text-based games. Mm-hmm. Right? That's really what it came down to. These were just text-based games, but it allowed multiple people to interact via these MUDs. Sorry, that was very long-winded.
No,
but that's pretty much it.
I think that's an awesome foundation for it. Like, just where how basically we've went from being in the same room to being in a room next door, or maybe upstairs, or even down 10 floors or something in a large office building, and how cool that is, and how they probably almost had the initial version of a like sort of in-house email thing going on, but people immediately weaponized it to play games.
We're talking levels of excitement that all of us gamers have felt, and this is felt obviously in other areas as well, but it's just that level of excitement and enjoyment and anticipation and surprise that like the first time you ever tried a battle royale game, or like the first time you switched over, the first time you I don't know, played a PlayStation 2 after, or what, there's these pinnacle moments where you get this true feeling of joy and excitement, and I can only I know all of the listeners, I know you know what I'm talking about, that feeling, right? Like, yeah. God, you just all day you're thinking about that thing. This is exactly these are what these people were feeling back then. Mm-hmm. I mean, or potentially way more than that, way much more excitement, because this was like you said, man, you're going from basically oh, I got this game I can play by myself, or I can have someone right next to me and it's very limited, to reaching these feats of distance, where even if, and I'm trying to put my mind back into that time
too, shout out for being able to play a game while you're at work, because I know anytime I ever had a chance to do that, the government computers, they were sure to keep a lot of, they took that solitaire right out of the old Windows 95.
Well, I don't know if that was ever online.
Yeah,
maybe the later iterations of it was.
But yeah, just
Windows
be
95,
playing a game at work, because I imagine these guys, like I say, I see it for more like communications for work, related things, and sharing information and things like that, and ultimately they've kind of used it to created these multi-user dungeons where they could play games and get that thrill that you're talking about, and also I would imagine like they could sense that what we have today was possible, that these are only going to get better, and there's Moore's law says
that's what I'm talking about, that feeling, that discovery.
Yeah.
Look at what we're stumbling upon.
Yeah.
And they didn't stumble upon it. I mean, they actively created these things and designed them, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty exclusive group that knows what's to come at this point, and has a little bit of probably influence on where it's going. I think that's an awesome foundation for where this excitement comes from, and what prompts people to want to.
Can you just imagine being back in the 70s You're like in Stanford or something, dude. You got bell bottoms on. You're probably baked out of your dome. You're studying, you're in the computer lab. Then all of a sudden your little like huge, super heavy, boxy computer just like gets a little ding, says, "You have received 1 mud." Would you like to open your mud? Little multi-user dungeon.
Yeah. You're like, oh, man, let's see what Ovox is up to over there in the political science building, like, or something like. Yeah.
Yeah. That's. It appears that is the beginning. That is the foundation. The first brick, if you will, in the online multiplayer history. 1970s text-based MUDs, multi-user dungeons. Fast forward 1980s. Mm-hmm. What do we got? ARPANET. Dude, that sounds like the next iteration of Skynet or like something like that, or like the next Terminator movie, whatever. ARPANET. Damn.
What stands out for me about this time period is that here you had the first sort of beginnings of something similar to the internet. And, yep. I think it's important to point out that it comes from the Department of Defense and where, research into something that, might have been for military purposes is kind of bled over into more of a social experience.
Hate it or love it. Happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that's one of the arguments of why we, it's important to have a space program and things like we get a lot of, technology out of it. You get the Tempur-Pedic bed from the astronaut's bed or, something like that, that improves our standard of living or quality of life.
Yep.
And I think this, the ARPANET is the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I feel like we're kind of going into a time period here where maybe you could do it like say more across the state, like you were saying earlier, and also more regionally.
It did in ARPANET. Did you mention already the what did you mention about ARPANET? You said it's Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, and then we got this here. It was the first wide area packet switch network. Yep, distributed control and one of the first networks to implement the TCP/IP protocol suite. I think that's really the main element about this stage in the evolution is that TCP/IP protocol.
Yeah, it's kind of like as I understand it, it's part of how the internet works today.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the first example of that.
Okay. Yeah. So why is that important then? Because it really sets the stage for the future. I don't want to say future because they came very quickly in the following years, but that set the stage for our next evolutions of online gaming, which would come in the form of the local area network, protocols, and onto internet using, yes, the TCP/IP protocol.
True.
In the 1990s.
Yeah, and made it commercially viable. Like obviously there's a market for this, and we can make some money, doing this. Folks are thirsting for this experience.
Yep. So I know we were going to have a spoiler in the beginning, man. I know you wanted to talk about the next stage here because I think you actually had more hands-on experience with it in the 90s. The "We Are Doomed" spoiler you had written on the top of the outline.
Yeah.
What do you mean we're doomed, Chuck? What do you mean by that?
I think when you look at what id Software was doing, I think it started with Wolfenstein and then Doom. I can't remember exactly which episode, but we kind of talked about this in a prior episode of where they used sort of an online distribution for this game. They offered like a little bit of it free, and then you had to pay. I forget the exact specifics of that, but like they were kind of leading the way in that respect, and they were making this first person shooter world, but at the exact same time as I was kind of looking into the history of it, there was a moment I think where they were going to kind of do something different and put like a lot more time into the story, but right at the end they decided to include a death match sort of version of it that could be played over more of a local area network type situation, and that laid the groundwork for like not only, like I say, the first person shooter, which is incredibly popular today, but an actual death match multiplayer where you could play against 4 people.
Dang it. Oh.
That was the moment, like we were kind of, hyping up earlier of how you had an actual human being, instead of just some floaty bouncing around, spawn of hell, and you fighting as a space marine. Like you were like, fighting the real deal, an actual human, that wanted to win just as bad as you did.
And that, I think, that set off, right? What was the name of their, of the platform that they created and did that on? Because I remember that, what was his name? John Carmack? No, was it John Romero? And what's the other guy's name? Carmack? The guys from id Software.
The names, but I can't remember specifically.
Oh, Chuck, you're killing me, Smalls. Come on, man. You're the brains behind this operation.
That's wrong.
Carmack. Hold on, I got to bring it up. I'm going to activate a cheat code. Carmack and Romero, I think. John Carmack and John Romero. Oh, they're both Johns. They're both Johns. They're both Johns.
The one and only.
Man, that's funny. Man, I'm trying to find a wiki article that I was reading yesterday where they really broke this down well. Man.
The way I took it as far as the multiplayer part of it is like, say they had this deathmatch part where you could play, sort of in a LAN type situation. And then around 1994, you started to see like third-party companies sort of take advantage of dial-up, and there was a company called Dwango that stood for Dial-Up Wide Area Network Game Operation, and it was basically like a third-party service that you could subscribe to that allowed you to play 4-person Doom like that over the internet.
Yeah, man, it got popular. Doom popularized the concept of a death match. They popularized the concept of a death match. My only question is am I wrong in that it was id Software themselves? It was John Romero that designed Dwango. That was my understanding, is that it wasn't like another company. It was his creation, so that they could provide this to other people out there in such an accessible form. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, I don't have like the exact specific of that, but the way I remembered it was more like at least just like an offshoot type thing.
Looks like you got a point there, Chuck T. I might have to shut my mouth hole lips before. Let me see here. Correct. I'm gonna forgive me for if I'm wrong here. It says Dwango. The dial-up wide area network game operation, better known by its acronym Dwango, was an early online gaming service based in the United States. Launched in 1994, it was originally known for its compatibility with Doom, for which it functioned as a matchmaking service for online multiplayer. The service also supported various other titles, including other id Software games such as Doom 2 and Heretic, as well as the titles from other companies like Duke Nukem 3D, Blood, Shadow Warrior from 3D Realms. Who was it created by? To use the service, players would pay a fee and run the Dwango client software, which would dial into Dwango server. Initially, a phone number in Houston. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you know it. Initially, a phone number in Houston, Texas, had to be dialed, but soon a number of servers in other cities were also set up. However, Dwango's dial-up Dwango's dial-in approach was soon overshadowed by online multiplayer through the increasingly popular internet, and the service ceased operation in October 1998. So that right there, think about that. Dwango was connecting people for online play before the internet was widely reached by the community. These are precursors and predecessors of the whole kit, man. The internet, online gaming, man, they go hand in hand, bro.
I find this like super fascinating to me because this is like you mentioned GoldenEye earlier. This is 3 years before that, and you know, I don't know that I ever understood. Like I did play Doom, but I don't think I ever played it in any of these capacities. Like I never played it. Like
no, neither did I. Yeah, I didn't even know about any of this.
Yeah, and
like Django, wasn't that a movie?
Yeah,
oh, no, it's a Django.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, it was all I could do to talk Dad into like me having an extra line. Like I think we had to pay $5 to have an extra phone in my room or something. If I'd wanted to subscribe to some kind of Dwango or something, you know, he'd been like,
I think that's a huge factor, Chuck. Like, and I think that's something that especially younger listeners will like. It won't even cross their minds like how expensive phone service was back in the day. Like see some like the term long distance doesn't exist anymore.
That's true.
Oh, hey, hang up. That's long distance.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're gonna call Houston? Nope. Oh yeah, dude.
Who are you on the phone with? You don't need to talk to your auntie that bad. Hang up.
No, I remember I had a friend in Indiana, and I called him. My dad told me I had 5 minutes. Like, and I was arguing with him. I was like, "It'll take me." He was like, "No."
But he's my best friend. 6 minutes tops.
You can catch up in 5 minutes. Like, yeah. So yeah. Like I say, adding like another service that wasn't me outside mowing the yard or anything like that. I feel like kids' needs are catered to a little more these days and understood. But yeah, I don't think he would have seen the importance of a Dwango subscription. But I did play Doom, and I definitely can imagine what that would be like, and certainly would have thirsted for it at the time, because for me the only thing I would have to compare it to as a kid is playing that game by myself versus playing 2-player with my friend that you had over. Doom wasn't really set up for 2-player, but any gaming experience is always better. When you can, like, if you're playing a football game, if you're playing against your buddy versus the AI, it's just nothing, not even comparable.
I feel like not comparable. And this 90s phase, of course, Dwango came out in I guess it looks like 94 was when it made its appearance. But this whole 90s decade was a very important time for online gaming between the local area networks, or as you mentioned, the LAN, using the TCP IP protocol that came from development with ARPANET, from games appearing in that time that really set foundations. I keep saying foundations. It really just, these were games that started setting the stage and building online communities and just building a presence of online gaming. This is when games like Counter-Strike came out in 1999. EverQuest came out in 1999. StarCraft came out in 1998. I don't remember what years Age of Empires and those games came out, but those were all just games that lots of people were playing, and they were all trying to play them online. Mm-hmm. And see, I don't even think I'm not sure. I'm just speculating here, but I'm not even sure that they understood or realized that they were trying to play online. It was just this new thing, this new mode where apparently I can connect with someone else. And, I got to just hit that dial up. Hopefully it'll connect, Sorry, I bumped the mic there. Hopefully it'll connect. But like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do some online gaming after class, You know what I mean? Like
it was more.
I don't even think
I think
we
it
knew
was
what
a
it was.
solid nerd activity at this point. Like to some degree, I think where this first showed up on my radar would be people playing on PC, and they would be playing EverQuest. And I remember, just sort of listening to this detailed sort of description of the character they had, and it was almost like they had this side pet, kind of situation with them. And I knew this guy. He was kind of like an older guy, like a guru of sorts. He met his girlfriend on EverQuest, and when me and my buddy would go visit him.
Please.
And his girlfriend lived upstairs, and they, like that's where he met her. And I don't want to incriminate. Like we were like, this was like a older dude that we knew that we would go visit, and I can remember sitting in his living room hanging out with him, and he would be playing EverQuest like while we were there. Like that's how hooked he was on it. And he kind of like would explain to us what was going on, and then later on I had a friend his brother was way into it, and we would always just remark about how much time he spent there, which I do today, but at the time we would, we're just like, yeah. Like, he's in there 10 hours a day. Like, we just don't know, what.
Oh, man.
Like, he's lost his mind on the weekend. He's in there 10 hours a day. And, like,
what was EverQuest all about? I'm unfamiliar with EverQuest.
My memories
I just
of
know
it,
it's super popular.
This is my memory of it, is like you had a character you would build up. And like I say, you could. I remember this guru guy that my friend and I knew that we would go visit. I remember him walking like he had this big polar bear with him, and it was almost like open world type situation. But there were also sort of quests that you could group together with people online and go, knock out those quests to like upgrade your gear and maybe obtain those pets and things like that. And I mean it
Gotcha.
made sense to me, but the graphics, dude, were like not like we're used to today, so it was much more blocky, but not like Minecraft blocky, but somewhere between Minecraft blocky and what we're used to, like say in a AAA type quality open world video game today. So still. And the movement wasn't as fluid, like it was kind of like he was jumping like almost. Yeah, like
gotcha.
Yeah, it would kind of warp along almost at times. It seemed like, but
sounds boring as hell.
Playing with human beings is what made it like again. So because immediately all sorts of in-game economies and things start to develop. I think that makes it interesting.
Oh man, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into the creativity and ecosystems and environments that end up getting created. Intentionally and sometimes unintentionally, known and unknown to developers. We'll get into that towards the end. We got some good ones. Yeah. But before we move on to the next decade, quick trivia question, Chuck. Mm-hmm. And I might actually I'm actually looking online here, and I may not have the actual answer to this right away, so we can look for the answer together. But what was the first console? Not PC. What was the first console that had an online gaming type of input or outlet or integration, if you will?
I'm going to say,
to your knowledge,
it was like 1987. The Famicom had something called the Internet Blaster.
Hey, hell yeah! No, I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Let me. I'm online here. I'm using another online cheat code. Listeners, whenever Chuck and I want to double check something online, we quote unquote activate a cheat code, which really just means we're using the internet to check stuff. So, it says here the earliest experiments relating to online connectivity on game consoles were done as far back as the early 1980s. For some consoles, dial-up internet connectivity was made available through the use of special cartridges, along with an adapter. The game line for the Atari 2600 and the Play Cable for the Intellivision, Chuck, we covered that in our very first episode, are two notable examples of this. Services like these did not have multiplayer online gaming capability, but did allow users to download games from a central server and play them, usually requiring a fee for continued access. However, neither the game line or play cable attained mainstream popularity, and both services were shut down during the 1983 video gaming crash, which we have also discussed in multiple episodes. During the 1990s, a number of online gaming networks were introduced for home consoles, but due to a multitude of problems, they failed to make a significant impact on the console gaming industry. For a number of years, such networks were limited to the Japanese market. In November 1996 interview, Shigeru Miyamoto remarked that online multiplayer gaming had not achieved mainstream success and would not for a long while yet, because the technology of the time could not provide a quick and easy startup that general consumers would want from a plug-and-play console. That's unquote. That's exactly what I was referring to earlier, man. And so were you. Compatibility. We don't want it to be difficult. We don't want to deal with all this. We don't want to have to go into DOS and quasi program the damn computer just to be able to play a little Doom. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Plug and play, G.
Yeah.
Plug and play. All right, real quick. I'm not going to read the whole darn thing, but I do want to close off with this last little bit because Chuck T is right. The first online initiative by Nintendo was the Family Computer Network System for the Famicom. So I don't know if it was called Internet Blast. Good guess, though, Chuck. Good guess. Real close. Real close. It was called the Family Computer Network System. For the Famicom, only released for Japan in 1988. The device allowed users to access things such as game cheats, stock trades, weather reports. All right. And some downloadable content for their games. It failed to catch on. So I just wanted to bring that up because that also happened there. Well, I mean, it looks like the Famicom went back in the 80s, and so that was I was actually backtracking a little bit there to the ARPA era. All right, so my bad on that one.
No. I think the way that history goes, it kind of spans those two decades. It's sort of I want to say Sega starts to, something like the Sega Net, or there's a few different upstarts till eventually we kind of power on through the 90s and toward the end of the 90s when you first see the I think it's PlayStation 2 and Xbox, the original Xbox.
That is at the turn of the millennium. Excuse me, a little bug stuck in my throat there. But you're right, Chuck. Let me touch on that real quick because it is a milestone in the evolution of online gaming, and you have it here in the outline. So we definitely don't want to ignore that. It's the Sega Network System, aka Sega MegaNet, and it was a network service in Japan for people using the Mega Drive, the Sega Mega Drive, which I never got my hands on one of those. I did play the Genesis. Debuting in 1990, this service worked with the game Toshokan. Toshokan, literally meaning game library. Let me backtrack. Debuting in 1990, this service worked with the game Toshokan cartridge to download games on the console, meaning that the game would have to be re-downloaded each time. Oh, I see. Players attached a mega modem. Got a bunch of technical information. Players attached a mega modem to the EXT DE9 port on the back of the Mega Drive, and it used to dial up other players to play the games. There was a monthly fee of 800 yen. The service was also in North America under the name Telegenesis at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show, Winter CES, in 1990, but it was never released for the region. Interesting.
Very
and
interesting.
is the Sega Mega Drive actually the Genesis, and we're just in the US we call it the Genesis, and no. Oh, it is the Sega Genesis, known as the Mega Drive.
Interesting.
Okay, my bad. So yeah, no, I did get my hands on the Mega Drive, but in the US, so it was called the Genesis. Mm-hmm. That's crazy, dude. I never realized that the Genesis had that feature, that capability. Interesting.
It had a ton of accessories when it really comes down to it. I've seen people build these things like where it's got that.
Where it's like a full-on tower.
Yeah, and it also has the CD thing on the side. Like I forget what it was called. Like,
Damn.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you can tower up like for crazy in there, and yeah, I think we're in a time period where that's starting. Also, like the next evolution of something like Dwango. I think there was a company called Heat.net that sort of improved that. Like somewhere around 1997 had sort of a. It was a networking service where you could play multiplayer on games that didn't even have multiplayer. Like you could basically somehow they connected. Like how like I would say like
spit it out. What do
some
you mean? That's
games had
crazy.
some like on the couch like 2-player. They somehow like were able to facilitate us playing as if we were on the couch 2-player, but through their Heat.net. So I we could play a game that essentially had multiplayer because it had 2-player, but it didn't have online multiplayer. But they were able to facilitate that, through their.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, dude. That's what I'm like. It had to be
just like what we can do that.
Yeah. And I'm sure it was
can.
clunky and didn't work a lot of the times, but just when it did, I'm sure it was a magical moment, and
it had to have been.
Yeah. And too, like I feel like we're slowly getting to that point, like we have already mentioned that, where the Xbox and the PlayStation start. You have Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network, and
PlayStation released in 2000, turn of the century / millennium. And then the Xbox came out 2001.
So right in this time period, I had a friend that I was really close with. He had some pictures of I think he grew up. Let's see, he's in West Palm Beach in Florida, and they had a big group of friends, and they would get like. Everybody would just bring their Xbox, like it wasn't able like everybody had the ability to play through Xbox Live or whatever. This is right before that, so imagine like 14 dudes bring their Xbox, and everybody and their TV, like and
Yep.
their TV,
Yep.
and they just wherever you could fit them. In the basement, they all sat up, with a bunch of like extension cords and shit. And one dude was literally hanging from the ceiling. Like they made a thing like where he was basically in this cradle above.
Oh my gosh, dude. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes.
And he,
let me guess, Halo,
exactly. like and he described it as like, just
I knew it.
the greatest times of their lives. And I can't. His gamer tag was they call me Curly, and I can't. I just totally appreciate that, and I think like, it was when you saw like what was possible, and it wasn't 2 or 3 years later that we could play Halo, Xbox Live, style, and
I mean all of it is on. It's all on handheld now too. We can play these things wherever we want.
yeah.
Even if we're not at home, we can connect and play it in high fidelity, high connectivity. It's nuts, man.
Yeah.
Like I could literally like be sitting at the property tax office waiting in line, while you're at home or somewhere else in the world, and we could connect via, the PlayStation mobile. What is the PlayStation one called? PlayStation Portable. I might be wrong there. That's weird. I'm a horrible PlayStation fan. PlayStation's my favorite. I know. I think doesn't Microsoft also have a portable device? I know there's the Steam Deck.
Sega had the Game Gear.
Well, that was a long time ago. I had the Game Gear.
But they had like.
But what I'm saying is, what I'm just getting at is just to the effect of how things have evolved and advanced is, when we were kids, who would have thought? Like, I mean, in retrospect, it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, and we knew this stuff was gonna evolve. But like, if I really be honest with myself and I go back, I didn't know how gaming was. For me, gaming was something that I loved and I knew that all adults hated. So I honestly had no idea how crazy it was going to get. And I would have had no idea. I honestly, truthfully, I had no idea that it would have evolved to the point where we could be playing online on portable devices, whether it's console games, PC games, or mobile games proper, anywhere in the world. We can connect and play.
I would have always expected
Nuts.
it to be clunky as fuck and just not work. Like there's still times today when we're sitting on like when we've been playing with Pepe Tortilla and you and I myself and I think I've even said it. Like it amazes me that this works as well as it does. Like 'cause,
It's crazy, dude.
I mean, it still has its hiccups. Like every now and then we get dropped here and there, but like. The common that's more the exception to the rule. Like it seems like it works pretty damn well.
It's the exception to the rule, and it's usually, in my case, because I have crappy internet. It's not actually because of the service. Mm-hmm. It's because I have an internet hiccup, and I'll like get timed out or whatever. I mean, obviously, there's games where everyone suffers universally. Like any players of Ark, Survival Evolved will know exactly what Chuck and I mean when we say, oh, well, sometimes you just get arked. Mm-hmm. That basically just means, and we're used to that. But with games such as like Warzone and EVE Online, Rust, GTA Online, like those games work so smoothly and they're so reliable and compatible that the only thing that'll give me any grief is if my internet just wigs out.
Yeah, and I think even when it's maybe not working that well, it's still so worth it. I think that's why we just call that getting arced, is because the other 3 hours of the evening, like it's amazing what we can do together.
Unless we get arced in the worst place ever, dude.
Yeah.
Let me go on a little mini rant. Like Chuck and I will be out, we'll be on our dragons or something. Or no, it's even worse because dragons ain't that bad. But let's just say we're on some sort of a flying creature. Let's say pterodons. We're flying across the map. And, we need to, we want to go the short route. So we're going to fly over the volcano or the scar or something like that, which is just basically a very dangerous area. And then, blue screen. Game kicks you. Character, just everything you have on you and your character just fall to their death.
Yeah.
And then you're like, gosh darn it, Rob. And then you're like, all right, Chuck, save my body if you can. I'm signing back in. I'll be back on as fast as possible. And and it starts loading. You just see the loading. It's like elevator music comes on in your mind. No. It's loading in. You don't know what's happening. Finally load back into the server. You've died. Oh, you were killed by a wyvern.
Honestly, I have to say I've gotten really lucky lately. Like I feel like my worst example of that is when we were recently moving bases, and I basically had half of everything we owned, and it happened, and I fell into this area where
that's right.
If you don't have what's called a light pet on you, like monsters just literally spawn from the ground, and like if enough of them come out, they turn into a much larger, more menacing monster. Like, so, all that's probably happening while you're waiting, Yeah,
you're just trying to load back in.
Everything we own, all that metal that I mined
and that was a hard one, man, because that was a hard one because I was on the other side of the map. There's nothing that... No way I could have helped you
even
there.
That one worked out. So like I said, I've been really lucky with that lately. But yeah, you do get those hiccups in compatibility and connectivity and all that fun stuff. But ultimately, it works, and
it works.
I feel like right here in this part in the history was my first experience with multiplayer. Like I kind of want to save that for our next section, but I just want to put a bookmark there that
at the turn of the millennium,
somewhere right in here would have been the first time that I probably had a hint of how fun it could be. Probably maybe playing some person gauntlet at the arcade or something. Like I knew how fun it could be to play with other people, but I think Halo, probably on the Xbox, would have been the first
Yeah.
depth into that world.
So what happens in the 2000s? How does the online multiplayer gaming world start to change, and why?
I think you got to mention that this technology is getting cheaper, and it's getting more widespread. Your average household can afford internet service at this point.
Internet has definitely expanded dramatically. I think the percentage went up a lot of the common household that had a computer versus the common household that had a computer with internet access. Those numbers were starting to, I don't know, like the the ladder was starting to go up a lot with internet access. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yes, you're 100% right.
Yeah, and we can see, that it's coming, and we know how fun it is to play multiplayer, and I think you probably, where like you might have mentioned a minute ago, back at the very beginning, we didn't know exactly where this was going to go. You can see that it's getting better and better, and it's probably that's going to continue, and it's probably going to start influencing the way games are developed. Like, instead of the multiplayer just being last minute inclusion in the story and Doom, like now it's a huge part of the game. You're right. I look on the back immediately and see whether or not it says that this game has it, like on the back of the cartridge.
You're right, and I never thought about that angle. Yeah, like you'll start to see like the packaging starts to change. Perhaps you're looking for those. How many little controller symbols are on the box?
Yeah.
How many players does it support locally? How many players does it support online? We were starting to look for those things.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. I never thought about that angle. And games were starting to come out, as you mentioned, that were designed and built from the ground up as online games, as in they were not intended to be played in any other way. Instead of them just being little like DLCs or little download packages or an extra cartridge or a little limited service where you could access some extra content. Now we started having like at a larger scale games being developed to be played online.
Exactly. Yeah. Knowing
that, like, we're our target community, our target market is online gamers. This new share, we'll call it, because it is dollars and cents for the developers. Like they do need to make money. There's this new emergent market share that nobody's tapping into yet, and the technology's cheaper now. The overall know-how of gaming, just the overall know-how in general of the gaming industry is far more advanced at this point in the 2000s. There's a lot more action on the console side. Consoles are starting to gain more steam, as we know, as we've done these episodes. We've learned that there was a threshold where the consoles kind of started to catch up with the arcades in terms of graphics and compatibility. So just things were changing, and by the 2000s, the online factor, the online element was becoming a factor. Is really what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like it was like you didn't want to ignore that anymore, or not ignore it, but it's something worth considering.
Absolutely.
Like, is our game going to be online?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting sort of progression that all of that goes through, to get to this point. And I think for me, this is that time period that I'm talking about where I knew it sort of existed, but was hesitant to do it. I think especially like as sports games go, I think the first person shooter definitely sort of lends to that. But I can remember about this time, probably being the first time that maybe you could play Madden against, someone online and kind of the I was kind of shy about that. I think like the communication that went into that, and
Oh, Chuck.
yeah. I
Sorry for shy. Oh, that's funny, dude.
Yeah.
I never experienced that, a shy element, because I think, I mean, you're right. Yeah, me too. Certainly. I mean, I did get to do some Age of Empires online action. Kinda. It was mostly failures in trying to connect, but every now and then I'd make it through and I'd get to play against someone, usually getting my ass whooped. But I think also maybe we failed to mention this or didn't specifically point it out, that I'm sure a lot of online gaming began in the form of just texting. Like, right? Because we certainly didn't have audio connection and voice chat until later in the evolution of online gaming. So a lot of there'd be a game dynamic, of course, a cooperative working together, or a versus scenario, but the actual like communication element to the online play, this was all text.
Yeah,
if it existed at all.
And before it was headset, there was a time period you could record a message and text that to someone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier. Where I got
that.
like I definitely remember getting messages like where someone's like, "You're fucking trash."
You suck.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, you took the time, like because especially for me, I was much like I am now. You know how like at times like you've got to kind of help me figure out how to do certain things in the menus and stuff like that. Like it would have took me an hour to like record a message and send it to that kid, but he's literally done it like, in the few seconds that we're waiting at the in-game lobby. It pops up new message and like oh man, maybe he wants to be friends.
He's messaging me. He probably wants to be my friend. Oh. Delete. Block.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry, Chuck. Yeah. No, we'd come to get used to that. That just, as we would come to learn, that's just called trolling or trash talk, or we're really used to that now. Well, anyone that's played Warzone
too, as you're kind of going through, sort of this evolution, like you were saying, it's kind of like, I think you went from nerds doing this, or just like the people at the computer science department, to where somewhere around here in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, is when it sort of goes mainstream, like where there might have been some sort of like way that people were making this happen and communicating with each other to some degree, but
wait, what do you mean?
I've heard like when like say around 2004 when World of Warcraft comes out, and you whereas like say EverQuest was sort of a early version of that, but it was still more like just some crazy guru computer guy that I told you about, and my one buddy's friend that was super smart, that did it to where everyone's doing it, it's like not necessarily everyone, but more mainstream.
Gotcha. When it kind of reaches the masses, and it's not just like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a counterculture kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
Is that what you're saying? Like
exactly,
just like a select few. Like there's a small community of enthusiasts that are following the tech and kind of always there trying out the latest. Yeah, and then all of a sudden 2000s come along. And it's a different story. I see what you're saying.
It's still its own niche, but like it's much more inclusive at this point, and its population is larger, which makes the money larger, which makes the R&D money available larger, which is just going to lead to the next steps in the evolution.
I think holding down, at least in the beginning, the title of most popular genre, it seems like it's the MMOs, right? Mm-hmm. The massive what is that? Massive multiplayer, massive online. What does that stand for, Chuck?
Massive multiplayer online. I think like one of the first. I remember when I was in college at the University of Montana, going into the computer lab, and there was a big sign that said, "No MMOs." that you were
I
not.
thought you were gonna say that said mud.
I don't
Multi-user
remember.
dungeon.
It was like MMOs are not allowed. Like you could not be clogging up the University of Montana's computer lab system playing those games. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I should probably check out those games. There's some reason. Yeah.
Do you remember what MMO was popular at that time? Are you able to recollect that by chance? What year was that?
It would have been around 2000, 2001 time frame. So it wouldn't have been World of Warcraft, but it would have been its predecessors. I'm assuming like
it must have been like maybe StarCraft.
Could have been EverQuest, those kind of things. I never followed through. At that time I was playing like a Star Wars like Rogue Squadron kind of game on my computer at home. So
Star Wars Galaxies was popular. I remember Star Wars Old Republic.
Yeah,
they were trying to do it online with that.
Mine was more like just a plain old video game that I didn't even play with other people. But I remember looking at that, and
just a regular old video game that I didn't play with other people.
Yeah, just because I love Star Wars.
I don't know why that's
flying my X-wing, and just happy as hell, like all by myself.
Yep,
like,
there she is. Let me fuel her up.
Yeah. So
take a look at her.
But I do think, I remember trying World of Warcraft at one point and just really not getting it. Like somehow, like I remember like being so used to video games sort of being on a rail that when I first saw like an open world type situation like that wasn't, clearly defined. I just remember thinking,
did your brain hurt? You're like, what?
Well, this is also like, 20-something-year-old me, like that, was into action sports and things like that. Like it just didn't seem like a lot of excitement.
Yeah, it wasn't that phase of your life to get involved in. There was like,
still.
Now this isn't what I remember. I'm not fully engaged in video games at this time in my life.
Yeah,
c'est la vie. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Bike or something. To get some kind of thrill at that moment. Like I, not that I didn't play some video games, but I just remember seeing that and just being like, but like now, like I completely see it. And
you're probably out there trying to find Mrs. Tomahawk back in the day.
Yeah.
Getting after it.
Yeah. Still had hope,
There's always hope, Chuck. Don't give me that, man.
I have high expectations. As long as there's lead in the air, there's always hope. That's right.
Yeah, baby. Keep going. We all got to get after it. You in the gaming world and in the real world. Yeah, man. So a lot going on in the 2000s.
I will say this. I don't mean to interrupt you right there, but I did buy Star Wars Galaxies at one point. I do remember having that I had DSL, it wasn't dial up, but it was kind of like an early internet that went over the phone lines.
Yep.
And it wasn't super great, but it would get you there. And I can tell you like how much I loved Star Wars is that I remember getting to the part like where I had to name my character, and like it literally took like 2 hours. Like I sat there forever, just like, just thinking of all the Star Wars characters I'd ever known. And like half of them didn't exist at that time. Like as far as the prequels and all those things, and just, like fighting my way through that. And it was open world sort of multiplayer in a large way. And again, without a lot of guidance, like, I just didn't know what to do with myself. It seemed like, and sort of lost interest. But
are you trying to say that the game wasn't well structured, and that you didn't know what to do? Like you didn't I created my character. Now what? Or what do you mean?
Also realize like how just like when we're in ARC today and like we get stumped, like we go to YouTube or whatever. That just did not exist. There was a book that came with this motherfucker. And like you'd have to get this book out and like read, a bunch of like
had to read and shit. Fucking reading.
I want to play a game, man. Like
Nintendo Power. Get that shit away from me.
Dude, it was a book. I'm serious. Like I care. I think I probably still have it somewhere here. Like I've moved that motherfucker 10 times. Like
how much does it weigh? Like 20, one of those big ones.
It like whereas like imagine if we just went into ARC like that and you didn't know like what food you needed to tame something with. And you just like that was a lot of like what was going on. Is like why will my X-wing not start?
This is way too difficult.
But
no, you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you get through those points, like you love it for its complex, its complex nature or whatever. But I just remember it being. It's like this is like using an ARC reference. It's like this is all fun and everything, but go ahead and try and tame that basilisk over there without going to YouTube. Yeah.
Good luck, survivor.
Yeah, just start trying. Just a little bit of trial and error there.
Approach him. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe 100 days from now, you might have an egg in your inventory and somehow figure out that's what you're supposed to do. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah. It's just like a parasaur. Go ahead.
Yeah. Craziness. But yeah.
We're always falling back to ARC for examples, isn't it? It's like, I wonder if the listeners have figured out we're obsessed with that game. 18 episodes in.
I hate to sidetrack us, but I feel like we're somewhere around 2004, like headed into the 2010s, where you start to see like
it. You're right. Sorry, Chuck. I didn't mean to stop you, but just so that everyone's has an idea of what has already occurred. If we're at 2004, World of Warcraft is releasing. I think we've already had the release of the Xbox, which was in 2001. PlayStation 2 is still out. I don't know if the PlayStation 3 is projected to come out quite yet, but at that point, I think we've also had a Call of Duty Modern Warfare had already come out, I believe. I'm going to double check that. I know, but it's just to give the listeners an idea of what had already come out at that point.
I wonder when Call of Duty 2 was, because I know Call of Duty 2 was the first one that had multiplayer.
Oh, was it Call of Duty 2?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Chuck, for keeping me on point here.
And it, surprisingly, it didn't have like perks and, create a class or any of that stuff, but it, besides the bad graphics, it's a lot like what we have today.
2005.
Okay.
Wait, is it modern? Do you mean Modern Warfare 2 or Call of
Duty 2?
It says, I got it right here. Let me read this real quick. I'm activating a cheat code, a wiki cheat code. Call of Duty 2 is a 2005 first-person shooter video game developed by Infinity Ward and published by Activision. Of course, we all know that part. Let me go down to the multiplayer. Let's see here. Hold on, Chuck. I got you here. You're covering the description, Chuck. Let me move you down to the bottom of the screen.
Hey, well.
Call of Duty 2 features several game types: deathmatch, team deathmatch, search and destroy, capture the flag, and headquarters. The maps include Normandy, Africa, and Russia. Each PC multiplayer server can hold a maximum of 64 players, while the limit is 8 players on Xbox. In the Xbox 360 version, players can play on Xbox Live and get new map packs. There are 13 official maps, including 3 remakes from the original Call of Duty. Was it never on PlayStation?
I can't remember.
All right. That's neither here nor there for now, but yeah, there you go.
Call of Duty, and I guess Modern Warfare would have been more like probably
after.
Yeah, 2008, 9, somewhere in there.
Call of Duty. I'm just gonna double check. I'm double checking you here. But anyways, we can move on while I'm checking this.
Yeah, there was definitely. It seemed like first person shooters, as far as mil sims, like really concentrated on World War II in the beginning, and
¿Qué más?
I think World of Warcraft is a highlight there that also, like I say, sort of brought that massive multiplayer to the mainstream more, and you have some offshoots of it, like where honestly, until we started like kind of looking into esports and like, I think we ran across a story of or two that we kind of highlighted, and maybe in some of our DLC episodes, where you have this Defense of Ancients, which is a
Oh yeah, Dota, right?
yeah
Defense of the Ancients. This is a big one.
It's a multiplayer online battle arena, or a MOBA. And as I understand it, was just in the beginning, it was just sort of like almost like a user created thing in World of Warcraft, where almost like if we were on Ark on a server and we just decided, okay, we're going to build this big arena where we come and fight each other, dino to dino or something. And, they just sort of developed this little play area, and it became so popular, it kind of became its own thing, and has become like a huge part of esports is one of the reasons I think it keeps showing up like that.
Is that one of those games where like each player gets one move and they like attack and then return, and then the next person goes and attacks and return? Like,
no,
is it kind of like
no? It's more like imagine like a place between Age of Empires and more like Arc PvP, where your camera view is backed off pretty far, but you're still able to control, like where in Age of Empires you're kind of just directing, like you're actually still able to control each individual character, and so imagine, almost like you're playing Age of Empires that's about 5 times as large as it is, and you're fighting each other, and you can see the whole screen. So instead of like having a first person view, or even like a camera that's following in a third person kind of way, it's more like you're looking at the whole arena. And
from the top down,
you're more like Age of Empires type look. Yes, it is top down, but it's not just directly top down. It's kind of off to the a little bit.
Yeah,
like
I think I have an idea of what you're talking about. I've heard about this game so much.
Where I remember having experiences like this is in Gauntlet, like when 4 people would be playing Gauntlet, and you're kind of looking top down at a battle where multiple battles are going on at once. There's 4 of you engaging with different enemies and things like that. So it's the MOBA, man. It's the multiplayer online battle arena. That's where it goes down.
According to your outline here, and I know you got this from the internets, the interwebs, it looks like Dota really introduced the whole MOBA platform. Like they were kind of like the first ones to introduce this type of gameplay, this type of genre, rather. Dota presents MOBA, you might say.
And I don't know like a lot. I know like remember that one story about the guy that won with Yoshi or Yoshi, like he like after 20 years, I think that's like a form of MOBA, but it's not Dota. It's like it's another game.
Do you remember what game that guy was playing?
It's like Smash Brothers. It's like an offshoot of Smash Brothers, I think.
I don't remember. Do you remember the game that I don't remember the name of it. So
it has Smash Brothers in the name. It's like Smash Brothers, battle
something
arena,
or other.
Internet Blaster,
Something.
like.
We're gonna use that when in doubt. Internet Blaster.
The old Famicom. It's only released in Japan. You probably hadn't heard of it. You're gonna have that in your larger game systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh.
No, to be honest, I don't exactly remember that, but I do see how this lends to itself to large scale competition and like esports, like your college team, playing this, like 5 guys get together, and the characters are usually pretty elaborate, like they're balanced really well as I take it. Like, one person might be able to heal, but he also has really low stamina.
Yep.
It's like they've really balanced it really well, and
I think 100%. And behind the scenes, what's making all of this possible, and we'd be remiss not to mention it, is that when the 2000s are advancing, there's a lot going on in the world back then. You may I was a teenager in those times. You may have been older. You may have been a little kid, a child, or perhaps, a toddler just born. Who knows? I mean, It's crazy to look back at the 2000s and go, wow, that was 23 years ago. You know, for me, sometimes it still seems like it was just a couple of years ago. But, you know, behind the scenes, while these games were this genre of online multiplayer was, and these MMOs and first-person shooters, they were all starting to gain a lot of traction. But behind the scenes, there was a lot going on in the world back then, and technology was advancing extremely fast. So, like, the whole infrastructure of just internet access, forms of internet access via, you know, whether it's copper cable, fiber optics, satellite, just everything was just becoming much more compatible and reliable. And there's also the market commercial end of this thing, you know, developers and publishers and marketers are just learning and perfecting and designing and bringing resources in and investing, and like everything's just getting so much more better. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
Like,
it's almost like
it's happening behind the scenes. So like, yeah, you know exactly what I mean. Like by the time these other games like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Fortnite, you know, Apex Legends, all these games that are much more recent, they have a powerhouse of a foundation behind them. And you know what I mean? It's just,
well, there's that saying, you've got to crawl before you walk, and it's like they're starting to walk at this point. Like I think, you know, the crawling along, like I kind of mentioned, watching someone play EverQuest, and it was kind of like his character was almost teleporting every few seconds, to where, you know, what made this MOBA situation possible is that much shit could be rendered on the screen at any one time and be moving, and it work, you know, and the inputs like be instant. And
oh yeah, the computer processing power. I forgot to mention that whole background scene, like, and you know, behind the scenes, computer tech is also advancing incredibly.
Yeah,
we all know.
Well, it's like in Doom.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. I feel like using your crawl and walk metaphor, I feel like they were crawling and then went right to running. You know, like,
well, it's almost like I'm thinking of like us in a hallway and Doom or whatever. Like it was really hard. I think like just the actual, for us to be able to go up a set of steps in Doom was a big deal when they made that difference in platforming. So I think, yeah, it's like all of a sudden now, like 4 different people can be on a team playing against other teams of 4, and everyone be on the screen, and it all be rendering perfectly. And like I say, the inputs just work. And yeah, it's a whole new world at this point. And like you said, it's almost more exponential instead of just being like the chart just being a slow sort of 45-degree angle. It's kind of like once we got to the point that everyone had the internet, it jumped.
Oh, dude, it's like fucking compound interest, man.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
It scales, man.
Warren Buffett, that thing. Yeah.
Warren Buffet. I'd love a buffet right now.
I'm with you, man. Go to the Golden Corral.
Yeah, give me some taco.
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, at this point, what's to be said? We've got PlayStation 2 is already in the past at this point. PlayStation 3 is released. Xbox has had its later generations, each one getting exponentially better at their online integrations, and the communities of online gamers are growing. At this point, if I have to look back and think of like right there in the 2010 range, sorry, I just totally blew into the mark right there. I'm thinking about FIFA. I'm going back to like when I was playing FIFA with my friends, you know, there with them next to me and online at the same time with other people. Man, that's like a combination of regular multiplayer and then online gaming at the same time. FIFA and sports games were another big deal here.
It is. it almost surprises me how underrepresented it seems like when you break out a list of the most popular or whatever that sports games are. Because I remember kind of, that being exciting to me when I first heard about it. But I think something that's interesting to point out here, like we talked about how, in the beginning we didn't, maybe even I was a little shy to play these multiplayer versions of the game. But now we're at a point where you almost exclusively do it. But somewhere around this period, it got to this place where in the mid 2010s, where if you bought a game and took it to the house, like even though you had the disc, you still had to download some shit off the internet for the game to work, whether you were playing the campaign or not. So it's almost like it's almost like internet. It went from like an option to you had to have it at this point.
That's exactly what I was saying at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That in a weird, as my dad would say, in a weird sitcomic way, which I don't even know what that means, but in a weird way, like you can't not be online when you're gaming. Like online gaming is almost effectively just gaming, in a de facto kind of a way. Like, now granted, obviously there's exceptions to that. Like I could go online and play Elden Ring right now, just fine without being connected. But it really just happens automatically when you turn this, especially on, even on PC, even on mobile. Like if you don't want to be online, you actually got to turn that off now. It's not like back in the day, if you wanted to play online, it was more of like gotta plug in this thing, gotta put in this cartridge, gotta quote unquote turn it on in a way.
Yeah,
to
go
do that.
online. Well,
yeah, and now it's just like no, you're online. Like,
yeah, I mean, you got the
right
game.
now, like,
you got Elden Ring to begin with online. Like you downloaded that sucker. You didn't go buy it.
Yeah, and it's like you're online, man, and you can connect with Chuck T and start a party chat. You can chat with him while having a game running, and then pause it, turn on Netflix. You're still talking to Chuck D, no big deal. Like you can do all these things online. Like, and if you want it to be any other way, well, then you got to turn it off. Nobody turns off the,
No.
Anyways, it's just so weird how it's completely flipped.
Yeah, it's like I say, somewhere in this time period, like once we kind of enter into the 2010s and move past the 2000s, there it becomes like more of a necessity than just a want or an option, or it's kind of like you have to have it. And
yeah, I think if I were to mention like one thing that I find extremely jaw-dropping, and I think it's a post 2010 game. I'm pretty sure. I used to know the exact year, but we have to mention Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that in a way of saying that in the realm of online gaming, Minecraft is the most iconic. I'm not saying that, but I want to get like a special spotlight to Minecraft in terms of online play and that online community, because I don't remember the names of the cities and I don't remember the names of the projects. But what I'm getting at here is that the online community there is so insane that these people, these gamers on Minecraft, dude, have gone to the feats of creating cities. They've literally built cities within Minecraft. If you're not familiar with Minecraft, I'm sure you are. It's just, it's an online open world game where you can craft and build, and you're in a community and so on and so forth, right? It's a huge game. Tons of players. I think there's like 600 million players as of 2021 or something like that. We can double check that. Anyways, but a special spotlight and shout out from me personally, because it just like it goes to show the extent of how much the online gaming world has evolved and advanced, because these players in this game have, if you go online on YouTube, crazy things built in Minecraft or amazing stuff that players have built in Minecraft. You're gonna see cities. You're gonna see. Like, I think the most impressive thing we've talked about it before in one of our DLC episodes, where players in multiple facets have gone and actually built computers inside the game. That's just the fact that they can even do that the game is flexible enough and provides the player enough resources and dynamic and flexibility to actually go in and build a computer inside of a video game, man. Like, how do you wrap your mind around that?
It's almost like
it's nuts.
One of the things
Minecraft, man, it gets a special shout out from me. Sorry.
I think one of the things that sets it apart is that I'm assuming it works as an arc of where when you build something like that, where you're talking about, it's still there when you're not online. Once you've become a part of that server seed that, you know, that folks are logging into with you there, I think I remember when you first described Arc to me, that was one of the things that stood out to me. You were like, you know, I have like some stuff there, and it's on there now. Like, it's vulnerable. Like,
and one's like, oh well, yeah, it's just like any game, right? Right, Ovox. I save the game, turn it off, and then I'll turn it back on tomorrow, and I'll load the game, and there it'll be. And it's like, no, man, no. It's like, visualize this. There's this big room, IRL in real life, somewhere in the United States, and it's just a big room filled with air conditioners and computer servers. And that damn room, man, it's humming, it's going. And on that computer server is your stuff, and it's still there. And all of those people that you ran into while you were online playing, they're probably still there, and you're not. And I remember describing that, and it's like, what? How does
it's almost like it's live all the time. You know, the things
it's always going.
It's there for those other people to experience, you know, offline, and that I think will only get better in the future, and is one of the things that is interesting to me, and I think, you know, why Minecraft deserves that extra shout out, you know, at this point, as far as not just being a large multiplayer game, but having a component like that.
And I just think it's a great example that shows what an online community of gamers are capable of. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just so cool. It's so cool. Anyways,
yeah.
There's definitely, I mean, I think you and I could go through a whole long list of the best, most popular. There's lots of ways to rate it, lots of statistics to look at, but like some of the best games to date, most popular, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. What's your favorite online? What is your ChukTomahawk's top 3 online multiplayers? And I'm not saying that, what are your favorite, the ones that you play online?
I think if I had to just like
top 3.
quickly jerk 3 out of the air, it would be be Ark, Warzone, and FIFA, are you know, to include a little diversity and variety in my answer there.
Don't jerk anything more out of the air, okay?
Yeah,
that sounded really weird. I'm gonna just jerk 3 out of the air.
Keep the jerking.
Keep the jerking under the camera.
I just mean, you know, first reaction to your question, instead of, you know, me, you know, longly researching it and really, you know, in depth thinking about it. That's those are the ones right there. You know, I get a little something different out of all those, and I love every minute of it. I mean, I love that, you know, without the multiplayer, I think those games would have entered my life and left my life some time ago. You know?
I see what you're saying there. Man, what are my favorite? I mean, Ark is obviously one of them, but I don't know if Warzone is. I play Warzone a lot, but I don't know if I'd go out to say it's one of my favorite online games. I really enjoy Ark. I really enjoy Rust. EVE Online definitely goes up in there. I have a lot of fun with No Man's Sky. That's a fun one. But I'm just going to go out and say probably just Ark for now. Ark's my favorite. Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, so where are we in our timeline at this point? I feel like we're almost at modern day, right? Like
we're pretty much at modern day. I would say we're in the 2000 post 2010s, 2010 and onward.
It kind of surprised me when I was looking at this that PUBG was 2017. I would have guessed more like 2019 or something. I don't play
I
that.
thought it was before.
Really?
I thought it was way before. Yeah.
I would say I started playing Fortnite right about that time. Around 2017, I was pretty into Fortnite for sure. I didn't know it existed until like someone said, "Hey, it's more like a more realistic, less cartoony Fortnite," and I probably looked it up at that time.
What did they like? Was it more cartoony before?
Fortnite to me, I would call a cartoony game, and I would call
it is.
PUBG
It totally
more of a
is.
sim, like a little more sim. Like,
Yep. Yeah, totally. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't played either. I've definitely played Apex Legends, which came out in 2019, I believe. Call of Duty Warzone came out in 2020, I believe. Love both of those games, particularly Warzone. I'm a huge fan. But again, I wouldn't go out and say that it's like one of my all-time favorite online games. But definitely enjoy Warzone. I think we gotta mention GTA Online. That game, dude, GTA Online is a record breaker. I think I don't know the percentages, but the amount of money that the developers and that whole like Rockstar, the amount of money they make on the online variant of Grand Theft Auto 5 is it's stupid. It's ridiculous. In fact, they're so successful that I believe they're like revamping it for the next generation console, and they're gonna just, I don't know if they're gonna sell it over again or if they're just gonna make the new PS5 version accessible. And then the Xbox, I think is the new Xbox, it's Series X, I believe it's called. I don't remember what the latest iteration is, but the latest generation of Xbox, I believe as well, is they're going to get their new. So, dude, it's so successful that they're like, you know what? Even though this game came out like, when did it come out? Like 10 years ago? No, that's not 10 years ago. Like 5?
At least. I would
it came
say
out a
more like
long
7
time
to 8
ago.
years ago, yeah.
Let's pull that up real quick. It's worth just finding that.
While you're looking for that, I'll say I see videos of people that do role playing in these games. Like there'll be people that just designate themselves as a police officer, and they go around like in complete character, dude. Like they're pulling people over, and like calling into dispatch and like it's the most elaborate role playing. Like I see people role playing as gangbangers, like where it's almost like just like a real life. You would imagine if you just walked into like a some type of gang situation, neighborhood. Like it's kind of mind blowing. But
it says Grand Theft Auto Online is an online multiplayer action adventure game developed by Rockstar North and published by Rockstar Games. It was released on October 1st, 2013 on the PlayStation 3. I was right, 10 years, dude.
It's a decade of that. Wow,
dude. So they've been I was going to say something completely inappropriate. No, they've been making some money off of that game for quite some time, and to the extent that unless it was just a rumor, they're gonna remake it, man. They're gonna like revamp it for PlayStation 5 in the next generations.
I see why most of my experience with it has been more offline, but like it certainly lends itself to that, and I'd love to give it a try, like playing online, like more in a role playing type sense. I think that'd be fun.
Well, we'll have to re-download it.
Yeah.
So, all right, we gotta push through this outline, man, because this is becoming a long one.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think you got to skim over, or at least mention at that point, like all of a sudden in this time period, we've all suddenly have a smartphone in our hand, and we're all playing some sort of mobile online game. I think that definitely shows up on the radar at this point.
Oh yeah, mobile gaming.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to kind of round out the timeline of the history of things here, and maybe we can kind of touch on some more of our experiences with actual games and that kind of thing.
Pleasure. Man, I'm trying. I mean, my first online gaming experiences began with Age of Empires, and I just remember them being trials and tribulations. Nevertheless, it kind of like set the stage because I did get some fun rounds in, and it was kind of like the first little seedlet in my brain.
Did you
like,
ever
wow, this is fun.
Were cheats possible? Like, could you use cheats?
Hell yeah, dude.
Did you get the Mustang Cobra out?
I never enjoyed those cheats as much as just stacking, just like filling my coffers with wood, and I think oil was another. I don't remember what the original resources were back then, but I think it was just like gold, wood, and there were some other resources. So I just make sure I always had plenty of resources to build out and to study. You'd have to study.
Oh,
you'd have to learn stuff.
Get your library and your
exactly. The university, the library, exactly. The church,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I only ever
that was
played
one of
Age
my
of
first
Empires
ones.
4, but I can imagine how that. I've definitely played it online against other people. It kind of seemed like they knew more than I did. I have to admit, but yeah, it's fun.
When was the first time that you had like a proper online gaming experience as we know them today? Like where you like, you know what I mean? Like where you like were online with people and you were talking to them in the whole 9 yards, like a proper online gaming experience.
I have two sort of memories of this. And the first one, I'm playing Halo, and I can remember like describing to a friend that I was playing in a large scale battle, and that I think there was a vehicle called the Wraith, and there was someone like flying that Wraith, and I was like explaining to my friend that it came over, like I was like, that's real people. Like, like
he's like, what do you mean that's real people?
Yeah.
That's a TV.
Like, I was just like, that's a real person in that Wraith right there, and I think they could even pick me up and like, cause we were on the same side, and that's it's sort of an incomplete memory at that point. Like I kind of I can remember that, that moment. Yeah. And I remember another moment where I'm playing Star Wars Battlefront, and it's almost like I loved Halo and I loved that story, but like combine that love with my love for Star Wars, and suddenly like you've got Star Wars Battlefront, and like I had an incredible knowledge of the movies, and I can remember like having the super cheap ass headset that I had literally had to tape like to my head at one point, like cause like the whole shit and caboodle on top had broke, and all I had was the mic, and like I literally like had one earpiece and a mic, and I had like taped it to my head, and it was like having so much fun playing that. Like I remember being in the AT-AT. Like the smaller AT-ATs, like not the big one, but like the walk. I think they're called Scout Walkers.
Yeah, the ADAT or something like that.
Yeah, dude, and just like annihilating people, and Like,
oh gosh, that game's so fun, dude. I remember playing that game.
Yeah, dude. Just just like having a blast and
just running you're like, this is insane. These are all actual players. What?
Yeah, and I would have probably been in my late 20s or so, and I just remember just being at the peak of like sort of knowledge of those movies and applying that to the game and just all of that and loving the shit out of it.
And that was Star Wars Battlegrounds?
Battlefront.
Battlefront, sorry, but the first one.
So, but yeah, what about you? Like where's, I know you mentioned Age of Empires and that's a little more.
Yeah, like I'm going to fast forward a bunch and I recall the first time I played, and man, I think I was a late bloomer in this regard because it was already a thing, like for some time. But I had like we'll call it the dark ages in my gaming life, call it the dark ages because it was when I was just not really gaming that much. And then I kind of came back to it because, well, this is not necessarily because, but I decided to get a PlayStation 4 because Pepe Tortilla had talked me into grabbing one. They were really inexpensive. They had the slim version at that point, and we were just mentioning how we could play online, because he lives up in the U.S. and I live down here. And it was just a great way for us to stay in touch and do some fun gaming.
Uh-huh.
So I got that thing, got it all connected up to the internet. And like, I wasn't, again, going back to the ease and plug and play and compatibility and just user friendliness that we've kind of touched on a bit in this episode. I wasn't prepared for how easy it was going to be, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very accommodating. Like it really just sucked me right back in. It just like, hey, come on in, Ovox. Boom, connected with Pepe Tortilla, super easy. I remember getting this headset that I still have to date, like, all these years later. Not these ones, but my Turtle Beaches. And I'll never forget connecting with him that first time and just the party chat, super simple. Like it blew my mind just how smooth and clear and responsive and just everything was just mind-boggling. And then we went in and played. I don't remember. I think one of the first games we played together was Dying Light.
Uh-huh.
There's like an expansion where you can like join. You can like join players in this more like. It's a little bit more open, and there's like of a world. There's like these dune buggies and stuff, and you can pimp them out, and plenty of story missions. And I remember playing that with him, just going, "This is amazing, man! I can't even believe this," And we were playing a lot of Battlefield 1, which is a first-person shooter. Super fun. Those are some great memories right there. Those would be my probably my top.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's see. You posed a really good question in the outline, and before I want to get to that other segment that you had laid out for us, it really caught my attention. But it says, "What sets online player gaming apart from other forms of gaming for you?" And I thought about this, and I think it's the human aspect of it, the human interaction, man, the human intrigue of knowing that you have a character on the other end that is no longer a predictable and learnable NPC, but living, breathing, unpredictable, perhaps illogical, or who knows, we can go through all the words, but there's something that emotional. There's something that's going on. I don't know if it's in the front part or the back of the brain or the hypothalamus or the whatever it may be, but there's something going on deep in our brain that's reacting differently when we know that that we have other players either there working with us or working against us, and they're not non-player characters. They're not part of the game. Or does you know what I mean? Like there's like there's like a different brain chemistry going on there. I think that's the biggest thing that sets them apart.
Yeah, I think you laid it down, kind of there at the beginning of our episode when you mentioned the foundational principle of online gaming is that there's no greater challenger than another human player, and there's no greater fun than playing with a friend. To me that like is the essence of what sets it apart. It makes that experience so much better.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So, hey, dude, what's up with this, your brief segment here? It's got big black letters. It's in real bold.
All right.
It's standing out. Drop it on us, Chuck.
All right, so we're going to play a game here called...
Oh, boy. I'm ready.
Let's go.
Oh, we're ready. We're ready, baby.
Oh, hell no. We're going to play a game called Let's Go or Oh, hell no. Where
oh, hell no.
I'm going to present you with a gamer tag. And based on that gamer tag, would you team up with this player in an online multiplayer-based situation? And, I know it'd be easy to say, like, you need more information and that kind of thing, but really all you got, is like, hey, here's a list of folks, and you're going to be on this team or that team, and if you saw this name come up, would you say, all right, let's go, or oh, hell no?
Do you mean when you say online-based situation, do you mean like like a survival game like Ark where we need to be a tribe together and build a base? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, like you're going to have to cooperate with this person.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just based off the name?
Just based off the name.
All right.
So just, to make sure we understand the rules, I'm going to just shoot one out there that's kind of like a, pretty clear one. All right. All right. So remember your choices are let's go or oh, hell no.
Okay.
So
I think I can handle this.
The gamer tag is, and would you team up with the pixelated pervert?
No. Hell no. I'm sure they're a great person, but hell no. I'm not going to take a chance.
What about? Oh, hell no. Okay.
Oh, hell no. Anyone that's got pervert in their gamer tag, everyone, like even in jest, I don't think that's, no.
What about the Trollinator?
The Trollinator, hell yeah. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's pull up on their doorstep.
All right.
What, the Trollinator?
The Trollinator, yeah.
Let's go.
What about, would you team up with your mom's chest hair? Let's go.
Let's go.
Or oh, hell no.
Let's go. Absolutely. Your mom's chest hair. It'd be all spelt weird just to make sure that, the terms of whatever the terms and conditions allow it or whatever. You change up all the letters and stuff. YUR _.
All right. So we're gonna go a little international flair here, and I may not know what these mean, but I did look up some popular like in Spanish ones. So
oh, right on, Chuck. Yeah,
we've got. So would you team up with El Gato Locuelo?
Your eyes when you looked at me. El gato qué?
Locuelo.
How's it spelled?
Locuelo.
I don't know what that means. Locuelo.
I don't know either.
Hold on, I gotta look for that. What does it say? Oh, doesn't matter. I'll look for that later. But hold on, let me see here. Locuelo.
Isn't it cool? I
Dicho
think
de
I know
muchacho,
what culo
vivo
means.
y atolondrado. Otra entrada. Oh, dude, I don't know. I think this is something kind of pervish, to be honest with you.
You're gonna have to. Yeah, I think to be safe, we're gonna have to go with all.
I'm gonna go with hell no with the gato loquelo.
Okay, so let's go or all hell no for La Furiosa Foca.
Let's go. The Furious Seal. Absolutely. The Furious Seal.
Oh, that's like the detergent there, the Foca.
Oh, yeah. You remember that?
No, it
Foca?
all makes sense.
That's right, Chuck. Oh, yeah. Oh, exactly. See?
That's why it had a seal on it.
Yeah.
Okay. What about
Oh, by the way, everyone, Foca is all, like as Chuck mentioned, just in case you're wondering why we're laughing, is there's a detergent or like soap down here called Foca.
Yeah,
and it's basically
got a
means
little
seal.
baby seal on it. Yeah, on the package. What about El Tigre Tonto?
Hell yeah, let's go.
What? So
The dumb tiger.
Tonto is tiger.
Tonto is dumb. Tigre is tiger. Chuck, come on, you can read that. You can see that. Tigre, tiger. Tonto is tiger? Sorry. I had to. You made it too easy.
La Zora Zara Pastoroso.
Oh, I love your Spanish, man. Hell yeah. I like it. One more time, though. One more time. I want to hear that one more.
La Zara Pastorosa. I can't say all that at once. Jesus
Let's go.
Christ.
I like it. I like that one too. How do you spell the second part?
Z.
No, the second word.
It's also ZARAPASTROSA.
Oh, I'm not sure. But it's a gamer tag. They may be switching it around a little bit.
How about El Oso Salvaje?
Salvaje. El ojo salvaje.
Is that the crazy the
savage bear? Yeah. Let's go. I like that one. Yeah.
All right. I've got some more these honestly I thought about this one for myself. I saw a guy, he was the Mexicutioner.
Oh, dude, that's dope. I like that one.
Yeah, so that's definitely a let's go. Name. What about?
Yeah, I'd want to have him in the tribe.
I'd have to change this to Johnny.
Dude, whoever's got the Mexicutioner is all about PvP. You gotta better believe it.
I saw Jimmy Changa.
Yeah,
that's a definite. Let's go. I could go.
Definitely,
Johnny Changa would be.
Dude, I feel like all these people are probably friends too. The Mexterminate. What is it? The Mexicutioner, Jimmy Changa. They're all friends, dude. These people know each other. You better believe.
What about Xbox One?
You're just talking about the three amigos.
Remember, there was an Xbox that was called the Xbox One. So this guy's called Xbox One.
I love it, dude. The Mexicutioner, Jimmy Changa, and Xbox One. Those are the three amigos, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta
one shot, one kill. Is it? All right, I'm getting out of hand here. I'm just making shit up now.
Just making shit up. Oh, dude.
All right. Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's a fun. Yeah, maybe we'll get some more of those for next time if any of our users have any good ones out there.
Hey, listeners, if you enjoy that kind of fun and banter, let us know, and we'll Chuck maybe can come up with something that we'll deliver periodically.
All right.
Yeah, just let us know. We'll leave our email at the end of the episode.
That's fun.
Oh, that was hilarious. Chuck, I mean, this outline goes on and on. There's so much we can talk about online gaming. And also on that note, listeners, if there's anything that you feel like we missed that's like really big, reach out to us. Let us know, and we'll correct it. We'll shout you out, and we'll correct it in the next episode. Happy to do so. But not to close it off just yet. Is there is there anything else, Chuck, that you feel like there's no way, shape, or form and way in how we can miss on mentioning it? Something that's important that I may have missed or glazed over.
I kind of set out to find sort of just some of the most obscure servers that or games that were from years ago that still had, are there still people playing the multiplayer from Call of Duty 2? And I found tons of surprises in that. Like, I don't know specifically for Call of Duty 2, but, games like that Age of Empires 2, even EverQuest is still going. That Star Wars Battlefront game that I mentioned earlier is still being played. Like, it amazed me, like, how many games that, were, say, released years ago are still being played online. And I think the king of that story is in 1998, you had a game in Korea, Lisa, that's called Kingdom of the Winds, that is still going today and has a Guinness World Record. I think at the time of the world record, it was that they recorded it was around 24 years that it had been going.
Damn. Man, dude. So that, like, remember how we were talking about a room with servers in it and computers and air conditioners just running? Yeah. That means there's one of them bad boys playing this game still. The Kingdom of the Winds.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Dude, that must be one tired-ass computer, man. He's still running this game. Just running, dude. There's like 10 people left on this fucking server. He's like, God damn, turn my shit off. Turn me off.
Why did you have to build all these fires? Like, it's taking forever. On Valheim, if you've built a bunch of fires, like it fucks it up. Like,
it slows shit down.
Yeah, there's always something, that like for each game that's like causes the render to jack up,
Yeah, just like the frames drop to like 5 frames a second. Yeah. Or you'll hear your, like with the PlayStation, I don't know if this happens on the Xbox, I'm sure it does. But or even on my laptop, dude, you'll just hear like everything's nice and chill. It's just making a nice, and then like you'll like go into a where the rendering's all jacked up, dude, and your freaking system will just start going. It sounds like the freaking it's gonna like take off, right, man. Start fucking flying away. It's going so hard. It's like, damn.
All hands on deck.
Get out of the air. Yeah, get out of there. Get out of the fires room, man. Like, dude, on Ark, before they released the incubator that you can craft, you had to basically just set up a bunch of air conditioners or fires. Mm-hmm. And yeah, man, the more air conditioners, because those air conditioners would kind of like, you'd see how they'd put out like a vapor.
Oh yeah, the required
that vapor, dude. That vapor. The more of those air conditioners you set up, like I don't know why, like especially Pepe Tortilla, even on his PS4 Pro, I could like it just start humming, man, and he'd have to turn it off. Like it literally like say your system is overheating, you must restart. like fuck,
turn that air conditioner off.
Get the genie. Yeah.
What are you hatching?
Yeah, like, damn. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I think there's a ton of cool stories in there. I tried to. I think I was inspired by this story by something called Vine Sauce. He was doing this thing where he was going back to this old server and was kind of just walking along talking about how, this stuff meant a lot to people at one time and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden this...
Do you know what game it was?
I think it's called Active Worlds.
Okay.
And he ran across this NPC that he thought was an NPC, and I don't want to belabor out our episode here with the long story, but that's kind of what it inspired this. Like
dude, we've been doing that the entire time. I doubt there's anyone listening anymore.
The NPC was actually a person that was essentially stream sniping him. He put out that he was going to do this, and so this person kind of trolled him a little bit and went in there and acted like an NPC, but also knew a lot of shit, like more than an NPC should know, and called him by his name eventually and just freaked him the fuck out, including me too, dude. Like, I mean, when you're first watching that, like it because you kind of get the feeling like the NPC has become sentient because it starts asking like, am I real? And like, yeah,
dude, that would trip me out too.
It got super weird, dude. It kind of made me think of like, I was kind of mentioning to you, I think before the episode about like, old builds that we've had in Ark and like what it would be like to go back and visit those. And it ultimately just led me to think about like in the future, will games literally, that will the information be up forever? And will that be like maybe a selling point for a new game? Like, are my kids going to be seeing these things like someday? Like, here's that, Parthenon that John built, like in the version of the Parthenon in Ark or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think it depends. Every game's different. Every developer's different in how they operate their servers. Like on Ark, everything disintegrates. It just despawns after a certain amount of time. If anything, we could say like if we happen to have played a lot on, let's just call it server 101, we would at least be able to say, well, how long has server 101 been up and existed? And we can always remember, oh man, we used to play on server 101. Remember back in the day? Even though there's nothing there particularly still of ours on that game. I don't know how the other games work. I think it's more of just these servers continue to be up. But when it comes to games where you can build stuff and craft and kind of in some regard, shape, or form leave your mark, it depends on the game and how that works. Like if that stuff goes away or not, or if it's there forever, it's hard to say. A lot of the general answer would be, I guess, if you wanted to be optimistic about it, would be, well, it's just like anything on the internet. It's going to be around as long as the internet is. But it's different, with these servers. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's interesting. It's definitely fun to think about.
Yeah, and I think it'll only continue to be, possible in the future as computing power increases. I know one little example for me is when I was looking for a PC server to play Ark on, there was one called Ark Forever that hadn't been wiped in years, and that was part of the selling point to be on that server. It was a PvE server, and it was called Ark Forever or something like that, and that appeals to me, because that's one of the hard parts for me is a lot of times, like in my Ark experience, I'll spend a lot of time working on something and like it goes away. Like it's amazing how important it is until it's not. Like it's just all of a sudden like you never know when that last day is that you're there.
Yeah,
like you don't know it when it's happening, but like it's just one day you realize like you're just not going back. And I'd like to see it, more like linear and like have like continuity, each time. But I also understand why it needs to be wiped too, and
yep.
Kind of start anew. So
it's so that you can have a new experience,
yeah. And I've started like cultivating my actions based on that a little more than I used to. I think that was a hard learning experience for me, but but yeah, as far as like I say, like anything else like that.
Dude, how about that EVE Online story, man? What a dick move, dude.
I feel like I have played a little EVE Online, and you've played way more than I have. So maybe you can kind of like enlighten our listeners a little bit about this, dude. When I like as I say, this last segment was sort of for me going to be like the weirdest stories, kind of inspired by that Vine Sauce story I mentioned there in Active Worlds, and as I'm doing the research, I keep seeing like 200K heist, in EVE, or guy breaks it off and everyone's ass on EVE.
Breaks it off and there's a lot of fuckery in EVE Online.
Yeah, what is good? What I mean, you asked me like what's up with that? Like that's it. Like I saw some stories like where serious heist and an environment. It sounded like that the developers pretty much left it wide open to how folks wanted to proceed. There's really no rules as far as what you do, and it's complex enough to support. Like I could create a bank if I want to, and start.
Yeah, I'll explain. And I'm pulling this up real quick just because I want to, like, just for reference, how long EVE Online has actually been around, because it's kind of crazy how long it's been around. It was released. Wow, I didn't realize it's been around this long. It was released in 2003.
Wow.
20 years ago.
When we bring up this timeline, I think what we just went through, that's impressive.
That's bonkers. I didn't realize that. So let me get my little outline here. We'd have to go back to...
I mean, you're talking like right after EverQuest. EverQuest was 1999. Like...
We're talking... This is when DOTA came out. Dude, it's been around for a long time. Always been online. And yeah, what we got is a huge... It's a universe. There's like multiple thousands of galaxies that you can explore. And basically the developers just created this... I think they're called CCP is the developer. They created this universe, this galaxy that you can explore, and made it extremely dynamic and versatile and flexible, and basically just said, there you go, you guys do the rest. Right? That's kind of how like you can. It has the game revolves around pretty much just exploration, spaceships, and its in-game currency called ISK, or interstellar credits. And basically, everything in the game is created by the players, sold by the players, purchased by the players, traded. So there's an ecosystem of commerce and trade and selling and purchasing and there's like no rules. I mean, like I think there's terms of service like any game has, but there's really like no regulations in this game. So, anyways, I know of two stories that really caught my attention while we were researching this topic, and I do enjoy playing EVE. I'm not a deep player. Like, I have very little money in the game. I play from time to time. It's a real slow burn for me. I like to just kind of jump into it every now and then, you might say, because it's fun. I love space games too. But anyways, I found a video online called like biggest dick moves on online gaming or something like that. And one of the stories was that this user, I don't remember his name, but he basically because there's not like rules in the game, he created a bank. In the game, you can create corporations, just like you can create teams in other games, or you can create a tribe, an arc, or so on and so forth. In EVE, you can create corporations. And he goes and creates like the EVE Intergalactic Bank. What would that be? EIB. Perfect, right? That's amazing. And my understanding is this guy just starts off slow, lending, getting credits, making loans for people that need tools for mining or that want to start off on their adventure, and so on and so forth. And it eventually becomes a real deal. Like he has employees and he has players under him and stuff like that. Like he's like created a full-fledged bank, man. It's a legit bank in the game, right? And there's a lot of people that put real-world money into the game, right? Like to get ISK and stuff. Some way, I don't think it's technically allowed, but when has that ever mattered for some of these people, right? Like some people put a lot of real-world money into EVE Online to move forward in the game, whether it's by obtaining more ISK or stuff, so on and so forth. So he's got this bank, and I think eventually he just decided to freaking just empty the accounts into his personal account, his personal character's account in the game, and it was just like, fuck you guys. To the entire community. And he walked away with 720 billion ISK, which has a real world value in dollars.
Dude.
Somewhere in the, I'd say dozens of thousands of dollars, up to maybe like $100,000. There was another scandal.
That money had to
fraud?
That had to represent thousands of hours of gameplay.
Oh, of people's lives, man. And that was one of the I think that user went out and brought out a video later on YouTube where he was just basically like, look, you dummies needed to be stolen from anyways just for putting so much into a second not real life job. Like, you deserved it. It's basically what he said. And no one can do anything about it.
Was he the one that, like, I saw that one where, like, a guy, he basically put a bounty on himself? Like, he built this super huge ship and put a bounty on himself and
just for the fuck of it.
It was the ship for me. When I saw this, it was like he built the baddest ship ever. It kind of looked like the Millennium Falcon, but on steroids.
Yeah, but fucking jacked.
Yeah. It's as if like it had been on.
Han Solo ain't gonna die in this movie, bitch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
He's been on that Liver King stack, son.
Well, dude, did you hear about what happened to Liver King?
I did.
Oh no, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I see what you're saying, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah, he's been having. Oh, God, yeah, it was a jacked ship. Another thing happened too. I don't know the details as well on this one, but it was a very similar story. There's like just another corporation. I think they're called like, oh man, I'm completely skipping on the name, but basically it was like a big entity within the game where they dealt with diplomacy in sorts or something. And one of the guys, I think. Yeah, I think what happened is that he just basically took full control of the corporation, booted everyone out of it because he had the ability to do so, and in doing that, effectively took over control of all of the assets and patrimony of that diplomatic corporation, which was in that case the ISK was a bonkers amount. I think it was in the trillions. It was in the trillions, and it equaled like hundreds of thousands of real life money. And that guy screwed everyone so bad that I think like 4,000 players later went and united to get back at him. You know, so that's pretty much the details I know there. But it's just isn't like, if we look at that, the scale of that, just on the in-game factor, and then the actual like scale of impact it could have on real world people in the real life. Like when, for example, this guy just took all of the money out of that in-game bank. Just to look at that, just to kind of step back and look at that. And then jump in the time machine and go back to the late 70s when they were using multi-user dungeons. And just to kind of like step back and see how it's evolved over more or less 50 years. It's nuts. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's amazing how fast I think it's happening, even though it seems like it's taken a lifetime, which it has, you know, for us and myself especially. But I also see, like, let's use Bitcoin, for example, where there's tons of freedom involved and like this being unregulated and sort of being a new thing. But there's also, that's one of the problems, is that it's unregulated. As much as like I think we, you know, feel like bound by these things at times, like, you know, as I see, you know, talk of the metaverse and all these things like you know, being more opportunities like this for human beings to come together. I think I even saw something once that like there might even be a concept like where people could network their own country. Like, you know, I just decide like, you know, I don't want to be an American anymore. I'm going to be a utopian and, you know, we're all part of this thing and we all, you know, subscribe to this and, you know, basically sovereignize our own, or I'm not sure if that's a word, but make our own sovereign country, you know, and
like
then,
on a network.
Yeah.
I can see there be like you know, brainstorming around stuff like that out there. I mean, you know, we all have a social security number and like we pay into taxes and things like if you basically started, you know, another one of those, like, you know, you could do that. And my point being like I don't have, you know, the information to really predict how that's going to go. But what I will predict is that human beings being involved, shit like that happened here in Eve is gonna happen, you know. And like, you know, I think it's fair to say that we have not reached the final frontier of gaming just like we have not reached the final frontier of underwater exploration and space exploration.
Roger that.
You know what I mean? I mean, I know
right.
that's kind of like that's a grandiose, like bold comparison, but I know we have not explored every frontier of internet in connectivity and in gaming as a parallel to that stuff. You know, I mean, oh man, we have not. There's much more to come.
I think just
much more to come.
Looking at this evolution, you know, more than say the computer engineer at the Department of Defense in the 70s could have visioned in his, you know, multi-user dungeon, we can see like this is going to be a big deal, and it's only going to get, you know, better and more inclusive and yeah.
And those are like the few parents back in the day that were like, yeah, go ahead, son, go ahead, daughter, play video games. Yeah, play them. Because every other parent back in the day was like, joy us outside.
That's right.
Get some sunlight.
House cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Those
know.
are like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I know. No, I've got friends that, you know, my age that have teenage children at this point, and they'll complain about, you know, their kids, you know, spending all their time in the room, and I'm like, you know, how do we know that the future that kid ends up spending most of his life in after we're gone is online or you know, like he's gaining skills right now that are gonna, you know, be useful in that realm.
Now, I think there's a lot of importance in getting out, but I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah,
obviously, that
yeah.
You're not gonna get what is it? Vitamin D. You're not gonna get the D from the TV. Well, and it depends on what channel you're on, but you know what I'm saying.
D on the TV. no, a good balance.
Depends on the channel and the hour.
Good, yeah.
Don't want to be watching Cinemax after 11 p.m. You know what I'm saying? Just kidding. At least not down in Latin America. I don't know what Cinemax is.
Yeah, straight to the sky. Boom.
What is that? Well, what is there anything else, Chuck? I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else that we need to address?
I think I'm going to eat this banana and call it a day.
All right, don't forget to peel it first. Well, let's call it a day. Let's get some online gaming in. Good episode, man. Thank you so much for for getting this outline together and getting that research in.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, listeners, thank you for joining us on our 18th episode. We hope you enjoyed it. This has been a long one. We're coming up on 3 hours, man. If you are still here listening, you rock, man.
Yeah, God bless you.
I don't know if I would have been here listening still. Bunch of babblers over here, but we do our best. We hope you enjoy. We're going to be back in another 2 weeks. Maybe we'll try and get some extra content out just because we've been kind of MIA lately. You know, the holidays were coming through. I think we were all busy with family, hopefully, and enjoying. And now it's a new year, and we got new gaming content coming your way, and we hope that you'll continue to join us. If you do enjoy the content, please share it with your fellow gamers out there, or non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, the whole crew. You can reach out to us at ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. That's OVOXANDCHUK @gmail.com. And yeah, especially if you got any comments on the stuff we were talking about earlier, definitely shoot them our way, and we'll shout you out on the episode. For show. Chuck, man, I love you.
Love you too, brother. It's a good time. Definitely hope everybody has a good couple weeks, and hope to see y'all soon.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Thanks, everyone. Catch you later.